The citation of the Holy Quran by Maulana Hafiz Saeed Jibreel Sahib Ghana, to be followed by English translation by Sabah Salam, London. Hafiz Sahib, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن هو قانت آناء الليل ساجدا وقائما يحذر الآخرة ويرجو رحمة ربه. قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون؟ إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب. قل يا عبادي الذين آمنوا اتقوا ربكم للذين أحسنوا في هذه الدنيا حسنة وأرض الله واسعة إنما يوفى الصابرون أجرهم بغير حساب. قل إني أمرت أن أعبد الله مخلصا له الدين وأمرت لأن أكون أول المسلمين. قل إني أخاف إن عصيت ربي عذاب يوم عظيم. قل الله أعبد مخلصا له ديني فاعبدوا ما شئتم من دونه إن الخاسرين الذين خسروا أنفسهم وأهليهم يوم القيامة ألا ذلك هو الخسران المبين.
Jazakumullah. Translation by Sabah Salam, London.
I will now read the English translation of Surah Al-Zumar, which is chapter 39 of the Holy Quran. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Is he who prays devoutly to God in the hours of the night, prostrating himself and standing, and fears the hereafter and hopes for the mercy of his Lord, like him who does not do so. Say, are those who know equal to those who know not? Verily, only those endowed with understanding will take heed. Say, O my servants who believe, fear your Lord. There is good for those who do good in this life, and Allah's earth is spacious. Verily the steadfast will have their reward without measure. Say, verily I am commanded to worship Allah, being sincere to Him in religion, and I am commanded to be the first of those who submit. Say, indeed I fear if I disobey my Lord, the punishment of the great day. Say, it is Allah I worship, being sincere to Him in my religion. So worship what you like besides Him. Say, surely the losers will be those who ruin their souls and ruin their families on the day of resurrection. Beware, that will surely be the manifest loss.
Jazakumullah. Bismillah. Now, Jariullah Akinbo Bola, please take over as conductor.
I've got a list of questions, approximately about 15 questions, Hazur. If I may, I'll like to proceed, and I'll start with the first questioner. That is a Mr. John Gurney.
John, please.
He's a sales manager from Thames, Ditton, UK. He asks two questions. The first question is, how many people make up the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim Association? And the second question is, what is the Ahmadiyya policy regarding other religions?
As far as the first question is concerned, I'm afraid it cannot be answered correctly, because the spread of Ahmadiyyat is an ongoing process. Even now, the hundreds of thousands being converted. And this year alone, we have reached the target of beyond 10 million Ahmadis in 1 year. So with the grace of Allah, you will see it yourself with your own eyes when they conduct Bai'at at my hands through MTA, and people who have got converted in different countries and from among different races, they will appear before MTA viewers, and they will be viewed everywhere. So inshallah, it's only a matter of minutes now. It will follow up. And the second question was about other religions. We extend peace because we belong to peace. And anyone who belongs to peace, that is to say, who submits to Allah, has to submit to the peace of the world as well at the same time. So we never say anything to anger anybody, to in any way to rankle in somebody's hearts. We are straightforward and honest people. Sometimes a straightforward truth, even when submitted with humbleness, causes agony or animosity, but that is not our intention. Our intention is to be peaceful to the whole world. And that is also the message of Islam, because Islam stands for the world religions. Islam supports all the prophets of Allah who came from anywhere in the world at any time of the world, at any time in the world. So any religion which supports the prophets of local people and considers them to be correct, how can it offend them? Because Hindus, when we address them, they know that Islam supports Krishna to be a true not a God, but a true Lord, in the sense that he was sent from God. So they have no reason to be offended. Although we do not agree with them that he is God himself, But at the same time, we respect him and we offer respect to everybody who follows him. I hope this question has satisfied you, answer.
So the next question is also two questions. The questioner is Sally Batchelor,
Who is he?
and her occupation is a manufacturing engineer, and she's from Coventry. The first question is, what is the particularities of taking break for midday prayer for Muslims in the Western business world? And the second question is, what is the Muslim view on transplants of animal parts, and this is especially with regards to pig organs?
As far as the first question goes, Islam is a very resilient religion, and 5 times prayers are essential, no doubt. But at different periods of the year, sometimes the day squeezes into a very small period of hours, and sometimes the night squeezes into very small periods of hours. So when it is a short day, then the Muslims during their lunch break can say 2 prayers together, that is Zuhr and Asr. And it causes no problem anywhere in the system of offices which is followed here in England, for instance, or anywhere in the world, in fact. So Islam is a resilient religion, and it caters for the needs of the hour. And the second question was?
That was on transplants of animal
Oh, yes.
parts in particular.
We agree, fully support in principle that to save human life is essential. It's superior to saving lower orders of life, because man is also the prime of creation. So naturally man has rights over everything else. That is why billions of animals are slaughtered, at least millions daily, for the sake of supporting man. So if organs are transplanted to save human life, it's no problem at all. But I personally object to the pig's heart being transplanted into my chest. If it happens, God save, I have a strong heart, but I would prefer to die rather than to have a pig's heart in my chest when I die. Thank you.
So again, we have another questioner who's asking 2 questions. And this is Teresa Waterworth,
Please.
and she is a marketing director from Hampshire. If I can read the first question, they're quite long. The first question is, the Church of England has decided to admit women priests to help with the spreading of its message and doing its work. In these times of equal opportunities for women, do you ever see your job being done by a woman?
My job. My job is being done by all Ahmadi women who are present here and who are not present. Whatever they do is exactly the work of the Caliph, which they represent in their own regions. So although they are not called priestesses, as you call your church leaders, but it's only a matter of nomenclature. They dedicate their lives, they serve day and night, and sometimes they serve the cause of Islam so much. It's amazing. I think they can beat Christian priestesses at their game. That is why this year, mashallah, we have got conversions from all over the world to the tune of millions upon millions of people. Among them, ladies have their equal share. So that equal share shows that the ladies in their religion must have worked hard, and they do. So they carry out my work. The second question?
Second question As a Westerner, I would want to see some integration of Muslims and Christian cultures to promote peace between them.
Cultures must be integrated through a natural process. If you look at cultural history, you will see that nations move from one region to another, and they bring with them their own customs and cultural values, and they mix up and make a flower bouquet. So that is how we treat our culture. We try to take the best things out of the British way of life and introduce what we consider to be the best in our way of life to the English society. It's an ongoing process.
So the question follows on. With regards to traditional Islamic women's dress, do you feel that a more westernized form of dress for women makes them less good Muslims, even though this may integrate them more easily into Western professions and
You
society?
see, there is no one Islamic dress except for modesty. Islam expects ladies to be modest to a degree that they repel the wayward eyes of men, the wolfish eyes of men, or even ladies nowadays. So, whichever way they are dressed, it's all right, as long as they guard their chastity.
The next questioner is Ben Morris. He's a student from Cambridge. He says, I have always assumed that the 5 pillars of Islam are of equal value. I wonder whether there is one which supersedes the others, possibly the Shahada, for example.
The one pillar which supersedes every other is La ilaha illallah. There is no God but one. Once Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that whoever said La ilaha illallah, and he did not even mention his own name, that Muhammad Rasulullah, said just whoever said La ilaha illallah, he will enter the Jannah. So when this message was carried, and Hazrat Abu Huraira was shouting at the top of his voice, telling all the Medinites that glad tidings for you, whoever says La ilaha illallah, he will enter the Jannah. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu took him back, got him from the shoulder, from here, from the collar, took him back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Said, did you say that, O Prophet of Allah? He said, yes, I said that. He said, but don't you see that people misunderstand the meaning? What I understand is correct, of course, but everybody would not infer the same meaning from this. When one says La ilaha illallah, he is dedicated only to one God from whom every goodness springs. And his hidden, what we call ego, which in fact he worships quietly, is also broken at the same time. So when all statues are broken in the name of Allah for His sake, that is the true Islam. And whoever does it seriously and sincerely will most certainly, inshallah, enter Jannah.
Next question is Tony Sandiford.
Yes, please.
He's a police officer, and I understand he's from the West Indian Families and Friends Association. His question is, how can the Muslim community influence the world peace process?
World peace process? This should have been evident to you by now, because we are spreading peace, we are talking peace, you see peace here, you observe peace in this our gathering. You are a police officer, you know that if there is a gathering of 20,000 people, a lot of hooliganism is witnessed and police has to be active throughout. But here the police constables are just standing by and nothing happens to their advantage or to our disadvantage. everything goes peacefully. Because the message is that of peace, and the messengers have a peace within themselves. So when you love peace and you become a symbol of peace, then no disorder follows. And that is the job of the police officers to see. Right? Thank you.
The next questioner is a Councillor Chief Mrs., and forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, Oirinde? Mayor of Wandsworth.
Yes, please.
Okay. And that's from the London Borough of Wandsworth. Local government is about representation of people. How can the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, UK, assist UK local governments to achieve increased participation of Muslims in the local government areas?
I think it's being done everywhere in the world, in Europe, in England in particular, in all Western countries. Ahmadis do participate in local elections and try to choose the best contestant from among the available ones. So this is a process which has never been put to question.
And Mr. Adramani from Ivory Coast. Forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong. His question is, Africa has seen so many crises, famines and wars, especially in West Africa and other parts. What is the point of view of Islam, particularly Ahmadiyya Muslims, about it, and what can be done to give hope to Africa in the future?
Ahmadiyya community is working very specially in African countries, both in English-speaking African countries and French-speaking African countries. Now the object is just not to gain number, because number does not matter. There are billions of people in the world which do not mean anything to God because they do not submit to Him properly. So it is our honest effort, very genuine effort, to convert people in Africa so that they become true servants of God. And if you once become true servant of God, evidently you become true servant of mankind as well. So that is again an ongoing process which is occurring in all Africa, east and west, north and south. Somewhere it is slow, somewhere it is very fast. So alhamdulillah, one day inshallah we'll win. And I hope that Africa will help bring the whole mankind to God once again.
We have Andreas Smith, who's a student from Germany.
Yes, please.
His question is, what was the purpose of Jesus after the migration to Asia?
The purpose of Jesus was mentioned by him himself. Once he told his followers that he would go, he would desert them for a while, he will leave them for a while and go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Evidently, no lost sheep of the house of Israel went to heavens, in search of which Jesus should have followed. But we know from history that 10 tribes of Israel had gone to eastern regions before the advent of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. And he was a prophet to all of them, all the 12 tribes, not only just the two who were present in Palestine. So that is why as he was very true to his promise, he pursued them after being saved from crucifixion by God. We don't believe that he died upon cross. We believe that as promised by God, he was not permitted to die upon cross, only he had gone into his coma, imitating death. That is why you hear the last cry, Eli Eli lema sabachthani. If he had willed to die himself, why should he have said, lamented, "O God, O my Lord, why have you left me? Why have you deserted me?" God never deserted him, not even for a while, not for a second. So he was saved, and you know the rest of the history. I don't want to repeat it, but we believe that he migrated from the land of Judea to the land to which earlier 12 tribes had migrated. Through Afghanistan, as we know, they are also of the Jewish stock or Israelite stock. He went to Kashmir, who also belonged to the same stock. Only different terrains and different backgrounds connived to make different people emerge differently. In Afghanistan, the terrain was hard and rash and life was difficult, so it became like the Pathans you see today. And in Afghanistan, in Kashmir, they were very mild, they were loving, and Buddhism had also played its role in Kashmir in achieving this object. So Jesus, we believe, ultimately reached Kashmir and died there. It's not time for going into full detail as to the reasons which can satisfy you as to really he died in Kashmir, but it's a definite separate subject. And the founder of Ahmadiyya community has written a book on this subject called Jesus in India. Anybody who is interested in further study can have access to that book.
Next questioner is Abdullah Sindlami. He's a doctor of sociology from Paris, France.
In Paris?
He says that there have been a lot of Islamic groups in the 20th century that pretend to raise ijtihad as a source of progress in Islam, but they have all failed in such an aim. And he means by ijtihad one's ability to reason and logic for guidance. His question is whether you promote ijtihad or not, and how Ahmadiyya Jamaat is implementing this ijtihad.
In short, Allah has answered this question in the Holy Quran by reminding us everybody thinks he's doing right. Only when he dies and presented before God, he would tell whether he would tell the person whether he was right or wrong. So we live in a fancy life, in a dream life, in which we always think and we seem to be drowned in with the idea that whatever we are doing, whatever we are believing is the right. That is how the struggle is an ongoing process which never ends. Ahmadiyyat also thinks and believes that we are right. But what is the proof that we are right? The proof are Ahmadis themselves. If they were right, they had to be peaceful. They had to earn their peace with Allah, and they had to earn their peace with humankind. And because we see this sign of our truth in daily life, so we believe that we are on the right path. Is that the question, or have I distorted it to something else? Essentially, this is the question. Right. Thank you.
Next questioner is Philip Roach. He's a transport manager in London. His question is, what is the difference between Ahmadiyya Muslims and the other Muslims worldwide?
Essential difference is that Ahmadiyya Muslims believe that the promised reformer, the divine reformer who had to come in the latter days, has appeared. And they follow him and his teachings. Although based on the Quran and the Sunnah, that is the practice of Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam, this is a claim which others also make. But we believe that we have gone back to sources, and that can be verified by our actions. We believe that Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam was an emissary of peace. Wars were forced upon him. So he fought with them whichever weapons were raised against him. As such, he was not a warrior prophet as some people believe. He was a warrior only in the sense that he fought for the sake of God. When the choice of weapons was left to the enemy. So as such we believe that now, because the enemy of Islam has not chosen the weapon of sword or coercion, so we must also fight back because of Islam with the same weapons of persuasion, reason, rationality, etc., etc. So this is the major difference between us and the rest of the Muslims. They have, instead of returning back to the time of Rasulullah Sallam, they have returned to the time of medieval scholars. And medievalism had gone astray by a wide distance from the time of Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So they think that is Islam. And because they think they are the true representatives of Islam, so they are following them. And as a result, you see all these disruptionists and terrorists and Osama bin Laden type people in the world.
So I have two people who ask a slightly similar question. First is Ibrahim Softik from Slovenia.
So Ibrahim,
Slovenia,
please.
sorry.
Yes.
And the other questioner is Miss Beth Sedler Rahman.
Please. Yes, please.
And she is a press attaché from Paris, France. The question is, why are Ahmadi Muslims labelled as non-Muslims by the rest of the Muslim world?
I think this question is wrongly addressed. This should be addressed to those who have labelled us non-Muslims. We have not labelled ourselves as non-Muslims, so they are answerable. Once you hear their answer, then you can come to us that they claim they had labelled you as non-Muslim because of this belief and that belief. Then the debate will begin, inshallah. Yes.
I have a Warren Cromford, and he's retired, and he's from Farnham.
Retired what?
He's retired, and he's from Farnham. And he shares a similar question with Said Abid Abedi, who's a student from Wandsworth. The first part of the question was, where does Jesus fit into our faith?
Into
Islamic faith. And the second part is, if Mirza Ghulam Ahmad came in as the image of Jesus, as Imam Mahdi, how would Christians recognize the new Messiah?
First question is in two parts. In fact, it's one question in two parts. And permit me to answer the second part first. As people at the time of Jesus Christ failed to recognize him, so they will again fail to recognize him. Because it's a very difficult question to recognize truth when it emerges. Now you see the spread of Christianity all over the world. But you forget that this Christianity has deviated, as we believe, from the Christianity of Jesus Christ himself. There is no mention of any cross, any Trinity in the words of Jesus Christ. There is no place, not anywhere in the New Testament, which can indicate that Jesus told people to worship him and prostrate before him. He never did. So we believe he believed in the unity of God, but he was not recognized at the time to be the true messenger of Allah. So he was named as Son of God, and many other names were given to him. But that was not his true identity. So when he reappears, the same will be treatment to him. And he has reappeared in the form of promised Messiah, the founder of Ahmadiyya community, as we believe. But his reappearance was extremely essential for saving the world, because we believe that Jesus Christ was essential liberator of the world from the sin and from the Satan in so many ways. He has many peculiarities which people fail to notice. Before him there were so many prophets of God, but every prophet preached that an eye for eye, tooth for tooth, etc., etc. It is for the first time that Jesus changed the emphasis on forgiveness. And it is that forgiveness which won ultimately. No coercion could beat the forgiveness idea of Jesus Christ and forgiveness practice of Jesus Christ and his two followers. So we believe that that is exactly what has been done at this time by the founder of Ahmadiyya community, because as against the rest of the Muslims, he emphasized the role of forgiveness and sacrifice and patience. And this is exactly what we are doing. So if you want a true sign of his truth, the sign is followed, it is evident from the message he gives to the world and the practice he preaches. And that message and practice is that of Jesus Christ again. He has mentioned that Jesus is the Savior of the world, not of his time but of the latter days, and then again he would reappear in the world in different forms, but not in person. That is very important to note. Not even in the transfer of spirit. It's only the imitation of his ways which is mentioned as his reappearance.
I'll just read the second part of the question. This was raised by Saeed Abid Bedi, and that was, if Mirza Ghulam Ahmad came in the image of Jesus as an Imam Mahdi, how will Christians recognize him as the new Messiah? But I think you've related that.
I think I've already answered this question. If you truly recognize the first Jesus and his first appearance, you will find very close similarities to that Jesus and Hazrat Mirza Sahib of today, and his practice and his conduct and his teachings, and his practice and his conduct and his teachings. Similarities are very obvious. If you are true in search of similarities, then suddenly they dawn upon you, and you are amazed that previously you had not noticed. So gradually people are getting converted to Ahmadiyya because of this awakening within themselves.
We have a next question by the name of Lamin Juara.
Yes.
He's an accountant from Canada. His question is as follows. In the developing countries, barren women take fertile drugs to bear children. Does this not interfere with...
What do they do?
Fertile drugs.
Huh?
Sorry, that's my I beg your pardon. It's fertility drugs, sorry.
Fertility drugs.
Fertility drugs. And they take that to bear children. Does this not interfere?
Now, what does it mean by fertility drugs? To stop fertility or to produce fertility? To promote fertility? What does it mean?
To promote fertility.
To promote fertility. No harm, not at all.
You've answered the
It
question.
helps the Islamic system of marriage.
Okay, he just further went on to say, does this interfere with Allah's exclusive attribute of creation?
It doesn't, not to my mind.
No. The next question is by Aisha Khan. She's from Glasgow, and she's a fashion designer. She says, please could you explain the importance of dreams within Islam?
Dreams are very important in so many ways, not in only one way, because dreams are a psychic process, this which has been mentioned in the Holy Quran, that whenever one's consciousness sinks towards subconsciousness and unconsciousness, then if he was permitted, that his soul was permitted to go on and on unchecked, that person would die. So God has a very intricate system of sending every soul back, and that works like a precision clock. There is not a difference of a decimal second in that process. So rapid eye movements take place when the souls return from the ultimate end of subconsciousness, beyond which they were not permitted to go unless they were to die. So they return, and the rapid eye movements are nowadays observed by can be observed by every person. Even if some child awakens at night and you observe him, you will see this rapid eye movement under the eyelids. So this is one system of dream which is universal. It's no different from a Christian to a Muslim, from atheist to a non-atheist, to a God-believing person, etc. This is universal. But at the same time, there are systems, same system is utilized by God for sending messages. And those dreams have outward signs as well, not the internal signs alone. Otherwise, anybody could say that I've seen this in dream and I think it's all right, it's a good dream and this would happen. It is not so. The fact is that Islam advises that a true person who is true in his life, his dreams are true. Because he doesn't lie in his waking life to others, how could he lie to himself while asleep? So the purest sign or identification of a true dream is the identification of the person himself, whether he's a liar or a true person. So very often liars seem false dreams, and true people always see true dreams. And these true dreams which are shown to such a person by God are shown by utilizing the same machinery. No new machinery is created. But when God's takeover to deliver a message, it is not just an internal feeling. It has outward signs as well, which can be observed by the rest of the world. The example I have often quoted is that of the dream of the Pharaoh of the time of Joseph. You see, it got fulfilled in a strange way. It benefited the people from all around Egypt. And it began to take shape long after the dream was shown. And nobody could even dream of its coming true. But it was realized. So it is not just an internal question of the dreamer, it's the question of outside witnesses which appear all around and which support the dream to be as a divine dream. So a lot can be said on the subject of dreams, but it's my favorite subject, but I cannot prolong it because of the shortage of time, please. I think essentially I have answered this question.
Miss Afisa, I apologise for this, I mean I'm an African, I should be able to pronounce African names. Miss Afisa Namayalo. She's from Uganda and now in the UK. Her question is, I believe that different languages are signs of Allah. How did they start and why? And when, sorry?
This question has been answered in principle by the founder of the Ahmadiyya community, who declared that language was not something which was learned by the animals through the process of evolution. There were signs of indicating small things to the rest of their family members or other animals, but the elaborate language system which we observe among humans is millions of years ahead of those animals. The gap is amazing. I have read evolutionists, and here they come to fail to satisfy the reason why there is such a big gap. Normally we should observe that gorillas or chimpanzees should develop this language further on, and man should take over from them. So there should only be a difference of quality, but not such a gap as exists between man and other animals. The answer given by the founder of the Ahmadiyya community was that God himself taught language to man. He did not learn it through a process of evolution. It was only one language which was taught by God in the beginning. But people began to deviate. They spread with the language and its different versions, which went on changing further by going to different countries and different climates. So you see the diversity in the languages as today. The same occurs in the case of color. The basic color of mankind is the same, but by different climates, different countries, by living there for hundreds of years, hundreds of thousands of years, people have adopted a different shadow and shade and hue and color. That does not make them eligible to take pride over others or to feel inferiority complex. In Africa, there is black color. In Western countries, you see the white color. In China, you see yellow color. So there is no point in taking pride in the difference of colors. People who are born in China, they love that color. People who are born in Africa, they like their color. Who are born in Western countries, they like their color. Rightly so, if they are modest at the same time. But if they forget modesty, then it becomes a crime. A lot can be said on this diversity, beginning from one. That's the unity of God. It's an amazing thing how God has created this world. Out of His unity, everything springs, and ultimately to Him we should all return.
Next questioner is Aluchi. Really. And he's from China. His occupation is a translator. The question is there other intelligent life in the universe? And if so, would it be required to subscribe to the teachings of the Holy Quran?
There is other intelligent life in the universe. There is no shadow of doubt about it, because the Holy Quran specifically mentions it. Not only in one other planet, but many other planets or stars, there could be life. But the communication between that life and this life can only be possible not by physical transfer, but by transfer of information, through information system. So new systems of transfer of information have been invented by man, and maybe they have also been invented by people on other planets. The difference may be 100,000 light years, or more light years. But through the transformation of information, it can be made possible that they are brought together. So maybe in future we see this happen, but for the time being, it's in the process of developing, but it has not happened so far.
So, our next questioner is Ben Hallam. Looking at the conditions of the initiation form, you're required to sign to join the Ahmadiyya community. He states that these are very similar to the Ten Commandments of the Bible. Why, if a Christian tries to live by the guidance of these Ten Commandments, is there still a need for him to convert to Islam?
Only those are required to sign who are convinced that they should convert to Islam, not others. So he is not convinced, he is free not to sign at all. He is answerable to God, not to me.
Another question by Mr. Yasmini from Wimbledon.
Where is the person?
Yes. The question is, would Your Holiness like to deal constructively with the dilemma facing man about his accountability? In Islam, man is accountable for everything that he does.
This is a very important question, the fundamental question which faces mankind today. Accountability is highly essential to create peace in the world. If you're not accountable to anybody, then death is a door which leads you to deliverance. And if you're delivered through death, when you're not accountable to anybody before you, then you can do anything here. You run away with your crimes, or try to run away with your crimes, and many crimes remain unsolved. So the entire system of chaos which we observe in the world, the chaos as created by crime, is because of lack of belief in accountability. That is why Islam considers it most fundamental, one of the most fundamental beliefs, that you believe in God, but also believe in accountability. You are one day going to appear before Him. And all your crimes committed here, whether you remember them or forget them, whether they're committed in the open or privately, in the thick of the night, they're all known to Allah. So you will be held answerable to Him. This is the only way to establish peace in the world. Thank you.
Next question is Afas Lagan. And he would like to know what opportunities and or threats do we see posted by the internet?
It's a subject of my choice. I think internet is getting out of the hands of great governments as well. It began as with a good intention to help mankind, and it does in so many ways. But through internet, evil has also found a way to be spread among the people of different countries, and evil songs and pornography and so many things, this and that, is now being spread by internet. Most often this is the case of religions as well. Religions begin with honesty and sincerity to serve the mankind. The same religions, when they grow old, are distorted to serve exactly the opposite purpose of spreading evil. So the same thing had to happen to internet, which unfortunately has happened. So that is why I prevent Ahmadi young men who are trigger happy with their internet system, please show patience and not to go further and leave it alone. The other system of media, television, etc., they're quite sufficient for us, inshallah.
Next question is Tariq Habib from Germany. He would like to know, does Islam promote lobbyism? And if not, why?
What?
Lobbyism.
Can't follow.
Can you explain?
Lobbyism. Lobbyism is bad. In every country, in every politics, in every religion, lobbyism is bad. Lobbyism means to create a group which will support each other whether they are on the right or on the wrong. So Islam condemns lobbyism, not only in religion but also in politics. Thank you.
The next questioner is Teresa Harris.
Teresa?
She's from Herefordshire, an ex-civil servant. Her question is, with the advance of science, especially in the field of genetic cloning, how do you react to the future possibilities of human beings being cloned, and what do you foresee about its consequences?
I have discussed this subject in detail in my book, Rationality, and if she's interested, she can read that chapter. Because Islam, particularly the Holy Quran, has prophesied about the various inventions and developments of man on earth, which were to take place long after the Quran was revealed. And God has mentioned all these developments and progresses with sort of commendation, that man will reach that height and that height and that height. But when it comes to interference with human life and distortion of human life, Islam very strongly condemns this and prophesies that people will see the consequences of this and suffer out of that, because this is specially done at the behest of Satan or devil, whatever you call it. This is absolutely right. Cloning has become a science, and people are very happy to create apparently similar things to that of the parents and think they have run away with this, but they have not run away with it. When a person is born through natural ways to somebody, he inherits good tempers from both sides, from father as well as the mother. And he always is responsible to his parents. But the cloned things are not responsible to anything. They can run amok. In the sheep cloning, you do not witness it so much. But when human cloning will begin, and as it has already begun, then you will see the differences. And I think that in future, this will cause one of the greatest threat to mankind. Suppose in America, let's say, these wrestlers, freestyle wrestlers are cloned, and millions of freestyle wrestlers are created in the world. What would happen to the poor earth? They will fill the American soil, the rest of the world, and they will kick back against Americans themselves and may occupy the land which was inherited by their forefathers, or no forefathers, because they are not the offspring of any genuine process of human creation. So I don't like it at all. I hate to mention all the ill consequences which I can visualize myself, but there are horrible consequences. If cloning is not checked in time, it will create horrible consequences.
We have another questioner, Mr. Ibrahima Moinboy.
Now tell me how many questions are left.
Okay. The questions are still flooding in as well.
No,
at the moment,
not the new coming ones, the previous ones.
At the moment I have about 3 questions left.
All right. I'll sit with you for 3 questions, no more,
Jazakallah.
because I've been told that already the time is over.
I understand.
Please. First question of the 3.
Okay. His question is, every religion expects a Messiah. Does Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam satisfy all religions, or will religions have their messiahs different?
The question is too involved for me, poor thing. I can't understand it properly. Have you understood it?
I have. I think he would like to know whether other religions who expect messiahs will also have different messiahs,
Other religions,
such as Christianity,
yes,
Hinduism, and so on. Or
may
whether-
have different reformers.
Yes.
Is this the question?
Will they have different reformers, or does Mirza Ghulam Ahmad
It's
satisfy-
impossible to have different reformers at the same time, all calling to God with different messages. So that means there will be contradiction in God Himself. Suppose a Messiah is born or descends from heaven in the Christian world, he was not called towards Islam. With the Messiah which has appeared, as we believe he is the true Messiah, he calls towards Islam. So there will be clash between the previous Messiah and the new Messiah. Contradiction will be manifold. Messages will be different, practices would be different, and so on and so forth. So at one time, only one person can represent God. Names can be different, but the person will be just one. Thank you. Second question.
Second question. And I apologize, I can't read the name of the person. Hopefully they will know who the question is written by. Is a sales manager from Kazakhstan.
Where is he? Yes, please.
Oh, sorry, it's a she. What kind of difficulties does Ahmadiyya mission meet in the countries of the former Soviet Union? Most of our
The
people...
major difficulty we meet in preaching in the former Soviet Union is atheism. It has gone deep into their roots. Atheism, although many among them call themselves Christian, Orthodox Christians or Muslims, this and that, but if you probe deeper, you will find atheism still working at the background. And when we try to convert them, the major difficulty is that of atheism.
Okay.
Third and the final question.
Third and final question. Oh, sorry. I'll just get the final question. This is by Harris Maguire from Waterford.
Yes, please.
His question is, there are some Muslims, especially the Western Muslims, who don't seem to follow even the basic concerns such as dress, manners and conversation. What does Huzur... Such as dress, clothing, manners and conversation. What does Huzur see of this and the decline of morality?
I think this question is self-evident. There is no need to further enlarge this question or enlarge any answer to this question. The fact is that morality is something which can be claimed by a person, and that's one thing, and which can be practiced by a person, which is another thing. So Ahmadis believe and preach that if you are moral, you don't have to call people to morality unless you are moral yourself. And if you are moral yourself, you behave morally yourself, then people will listen to you, otherwise not. And this is the claim of the Holy Quran, that if you call people to God, first behave morally. If you do so, then they will listen to you. Otherwise they will reject your message. In fact, you can't deceive people. It's an amazing thing, you can't deceive even your own children. When you call them to morality and you do not practice morality yourselves, children know. And they grow immoral when they grow out of your influence, because the parents were immoral, so they should respond to immorality rather than to claim morality. This is the essential of life as we observe here in this world today. Thank you. Right?
That's the third of my questions.
Now with that I seek your permission to leave you. Of course, it's a very interesting meeting, intellectual meeting, which serves the purpose of my teaching you and your teaching me. So we both benefit. There is no exaggeration in this. By appearing before these question-answer sessions, I always benefit, and this is the process which goes on with my life to further heights. So Alhamdulillah, I should have loved to go on sitting with you, but unfortunately, or fortunately, there is another very important program to follow. So with that apology, I take leave of you. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.